Hello and welcome to Web Relates. Today we're looking at the AskReddit subreddit, where Silly Hannah has asked, "What's the most bizarre life advice you've ever received that actually worked?" Top Lady Lil says, "The most bizarre life advice I ever received was to talk to yourself like you would to your best friend. At first it sounded strange, but I decided to give it a try. Whenever I started being hard on myself or doubting my abilities, I would stop and think, what would I say if my best friend was feeling this way? It completely changed my perspective and helped me become much kinder and more supportive of myself. It's weirdly effective and something I still practice today." Worst Girl has replied, "I used a similar piece of advice with my mother a couple months ago. She was stressed out about a situation with a man she was seeing, where she felt like he wasn't respecting her boundaries or her as a person, and she wasn't sure what to do. So I asked her, if I came to you with this exact situation, what advice would you give me? Would you tell me to keep putting up with what's going on? Why don't you want yourself to have the same type of happiness that you want for me?" It seemed very eye-opening for her. Overeatem says, "Do you understand that if you try to endlessly stack bricks, no matter how perfect you do it, they will fall over? My boss told me this after I burned out. Just says that no matter how well you plan your work, too much is too much." A Green Storm has replied, "I once did IT work for a CPA. He was an older guy in his 50s. His adult kids did not talk to him. He was very overweight and had a number of health problems because of it. Here I was, a 20-something computer dude, who was very clearly burning myself out, and he told me how someone once told him, 'No one will ever stand over your grave and thank you for doing their taxes.' Then he told me how he didn't listen to that guy, and that's how he ended up where he was." Coco Setachan has said, "A weird insomnia tip that works for me. If you go to bed but cannot fall asleep, instead of staying in bed waiting, get up, go in another room of your house, and in the dark and in silence, lay on the ground, on your back. Look at the dark or ceiling. Breathe. You'll feel tired in a few minutes. When you do go back to bed, still in the dark and in silence. I always fall asleep real quick after." This reminds me a little bit of another piece of advice I saw a long time ago, which just said that if you're feeling anxious in bed and you can't fall asleep because of that anxiety, staying in that bed makes that place a place of anxiety. So just go sleep somewhere else. The couch, another bed if you can, something. I've actually done both of these, both what Coco Setachan just said and what I've just said, and I think they both work. Paul Aliente says, "Everything worth doing is worth doing poorly. This helped me so much when I was burnt out and had no energy for basic personal care. Don't think you can brush your teeth? Gargle some mouthwash instead. Have no energy to cook? A sandwich is better than nothing. Dreading doing laundry because folding it seems like an impossible task? Don't fold, just wash." Louis Super Saiyan 15 has replied, "Similar, related saying I've been trying to incorporate into myself. Don't let perfection stand in the way of good enough." I used to attend an exercise class where the instructor said, "The hardest part of training is coming to training." Sometimes the hardest thing to do is just start, but once you've started, things can work out. Threadbare Femur says, "I struggle with severe depression as part of another mental health condition. A psych nurse I once saw suggested crazy dancing as a coping mechanism for when you're absolutely suicidal or you can't stop crying. She told me to just stand up and start moving your body around, flail your arms and kick your legs out if you have to. Just whatever you do, keep moving, and keep an open mind. You know what they say, if it's stupid and it works, it ain't stupid. It does help, and has stopped me from doing worse things to self-regulate." Miss Godot has replied, "Someone asked on another sub about whether or not they were weird for moving around like an ape to cope with negative or intrusive feelings. They did this in the privacy of their own home, not just out and about, and I responded saying it may not be common, but they should totally keep doing what works for them. Who gives a crap if it is weird if it works? Process that trauma, ape out those feelings, lol." Anxious energy is energy, and like all energy, it can be worked out via movement and exercise. Coral Crossbow says, "The most bizarre life advice I've ever received that actually worked was to pretend you're a character in a video game. Whenever I'm faced with a tough decision or a stressful situation, I imagine I'm just a character in a game, and I need to figure out the best strategy to move forward. It sounds silly, but it really helps me detach from the stress and look at things more objectively. 12345 Pizza has said, this works when you're trying to diet, or learn a new skill, or save money. Pretend you're getting XP each time you pick up the guitar to run some scales. Imagine you're gaining stamina each time you go for a jog. Make spending as little as possible on eating out in a week into a game. Eventually, those habits stick. You know, I thought of this a long time ago, but if someone made an app where you could make like a game character profile full of stats and quests as a task list, I think it would be really popular. I just can't make it myself. Affectionate Pop has said, to make sure you have good posture, act like you're shooting laser beams with your nipples. On a related note, Paper Phone Box has said, always walk like you're wearing a cape. It is great for your posture and your self-confidence. There is a huge psychological difference between slinking into someplace versus throwing the doors open wide and strolling in like you're Dr. Doom. J.H. Rogers has replied, my dad would always say, act like you have somewhere to be when we were walking. Can confirm, it's almost like the physical momentum actually makes its way into your brain and gives you like mental momentum into whatever task you need to do. Tubbs has said, not really bizarre, but life-changing, albeit in a minor way. I used to have crippling anxiety talking to strangers, particularly customer service people taking my order. Someone said to me, they aren't going to remember anything you say to them, so just speak normally. And golly, did that work. Flower Flowers has said, a stranger on the street passed me in his manic episode and said to me, one day you'll be like a bird, and on that day you need to fly. Okay, I like it, but maybe taking advice from crazy street people isn't the best idea. Deadwoods has said, love yourself, and life will eventually get better. If you love someone, you care for them and treat them right. Start loving yourself and treat yourself right. Don't look for a reason why you hate yourself and try to improve it. Start loving yourself and improve yourself, because you deserve to be better and want to treat yourself with a mind, soul, or body you're comfortable with. Nyarden has said, remember at all times that no one at all knows what you're thinking. Occurred to me one day, and it's made my life significantly easier in some regards. If I feel bad for liking something, or am afraid of something or someone, always remember no one knows. Your thoughts are free. Savdar says, once I was at the dentist and I felt like I was going to gag while I was getting molds done for braces, and the dental assistant told me to lift my left leg, and it would stop the feeling. It works. So if you ever feel like your gag reflex is playing up, lift your left leg. I imagine this is just a way to trick your brain into focusing on something else, which might not work if you are actively doing something that's causing you to gag. Dusty Raccoon Ranger says, I used to chat with a man I always bought a newspaper from in front of Trader Joe's each week. One week I was sprinting over to the store because I was running behind and needed something to bring to a dinner I was already pressed to get to. As I round the corner to the front doors, I realized I'd forgotten my wallet. This was early, if not pre-Apple Pay, etc. days. He nodded at me and said, the hurrier you go, the behinder you get. I think the official phrase is, haste makes waste, but I like this one better. Salamander the Cat says, raise or treat yourself like you would raise your own kid, real kid or imaginary kid. Say, you would want to feed your baby healthy food. Then cook yourself some healthy food. You want your baby to have a regular routine sleep schedule? Make the same schedule for yourself. You want your kid to take enrichment classes? Sign up for something yourself. Spoil yourself the same way you would like to spoil your kid. Fritzo has said, put your signature on everything you do, no matter how menial. This put me in the mindset of doing every task to the best of my ability, to the point when you finish something, others will say, I know who did this work. This has gotten me very far in life. I've had 4 jobs my entire life, and I've been promoted to the top of each one of them. I think that's also a great way to make sure no one else can take credit for your good work, and also to make sure the public is aware of you and your existence. And lastly, Relevant Bar says, the only person who is going to take care of yourself is you. Baz Luhrmann's Everybody's Free to Wear Sunscreen has a great few lines on this. Don't rely on anyone else to support you. Maybe you have a trust fund. Maybe you have a wealthy spouse. You never know when either one might run out. Okay, guys, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. I found that quite interesting. Quite a few interesting pieces, some of it feeling like common sense, and some of it actually just a really nice way of looking at simple situations. Okay, thank you guys. If you enjoyed, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.